Welcome to Sister Friends. I'm Angie Gray here with my amazing friend,
Rashonda Young.
And together we're diving into what's at the heart of it all, relationships.
From finances and family to the ups and downs of life partnerships, and even those relationships we have with ourselves. We're here to talk about the real stuff.
We're not shying away from the hard conversations, we're leaning into them because we believe that when we start talking, we start understanding.
And when we understand, we grow in empathy, compassion, and connection.
So grab a seat,
grab a friend, and let's
get into it. Hi, I'm Angie Gray.
And I'm Rashonda Young.
And we are Sister Friends.
And today we have a guest with us. Her name is Kalola Roby. And Kalola is a financial wellness coach. Kalola and I go back a lot of years. Like we were 3 years old when we met.
That's crazy.
I know, right? And so Kalola's been in the financial industry, banking, credit unions for about 25 years now. And then she has been doing financial wellness coaching since, I don't know, early 2020-ish.
Yep.
And so if you want to just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about your business and why you got started.
Yes. So the name of my business is Empower Your Value. And I got started, I think, when a lot of other people got started of doing their business during COVID. One of the things that I noticed is in the banking industry or in the financial industry, when individuals come in to the bank, it's a lot of transactional. It's a lot of, I'm just going to either cash your check and send you on your way because I got to get someone to the next, I got to get to the next person in line. And we just weren't spending the time to help others understand what was going on with their finances. And it actually bothered me a little bit. So I just started learning more, doing more so that I could be more knowledgeable to help people. And of course, 2020, when COVID came along, you know, what better time to start a business? Yeah, right. And I'm very passionate about helping people. I'm very passionate about my community and making sure that they know when they go into a financial institution what to expect and how to read their accounts and different things like that. And it just kind of evolved into helping others.
Oh, okay. I love that. I was thinking, because I don't think you mentioned that you were working at a bank.
Yes.
And then that was all happening. Those were the feelings you were having and experiencing those things. I love that while you were doing that, that you had this idea develop in your mind and you're growing and your gifts are like, yeah, I really want to serve. I want to help these people. From practical experience, like, was that an experience that you had, like being frustrated at some point with your own stuff and not having answers, or did that just all come from your experience at the bank? Does that make sense?
Yes. So I think with my experience also, I think when you work at a bank, people assume that you have everything all together and you know every single thing. Well, years later, after I left, I realized I didn't know there was a lot of things within my own finances that I should have known and I didn't know. And so I figured, well, if I worked at a financial institution and I didn't know this, there's probably others that don't know this either. And so, it took me a while to do my own research to find out. And what I realized is that people don't like asking questions if they're not comfortable with the person that is supposed to answer the question. Yeah, for sure. And I wanted to make sure that I was very approachable and that I am a person that have probably sat in their seat or, have probably been in the shoes that they have been in because I've had those questions, but I was not comfortable asking those questions to the people that could probably answer the questions.
So for people who probably have the questions, or I'm just thinking if somebody walks into a bank or credit union and there's the teller there, and whatever the teller is seeing in the screen, or if they're, asking about a loan or something, do they have the tools? Like, what kind of tools do they have to be able to help? Or how do you help a person when, you can see that they probably need some help?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
But what tools behind the scenes? Give us a picture. Yeah.
So adding to that question, so let's say you see, so somebody's coming in, I'm visualizing this, and you, because you are, what am I trying to say? You are intuitive enough, and you know people, and you're reading them, and you see that they want to ask a question. Can you offer things like you're saying, what tools you have, but what if they don't actually ask the question? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, is it ethical for you to go, oh, I wonder, I bet you they might need this because of whatever they're, acting like, or the questions that they've asked? Can you offer things? Is there any like no-nos that you shouldn't do?
As long as you're knowledgeable of what it is that the person needs, then yes, a teller definitely will ask the questions if they have been trained. And so as long as the person is trained and know exactly what to ask, then I think that's fine. What I saw, one of the challenges that I saw was when you're really busy and the line is really long and you want to get through every single individual, which is just human nature. It is absolutely human nature, because you don't want anybody to wait in line. If you were in line and there were 10 or 15 people ahead of you, you would want that line to go fast. And so it's human nature to want that. And I think that expectation is that, what, we need to help everyone. Let's say I am the customer or the member, I would just need to be comfortable enough to come back and ask the question, or call in and ask the question. And sometimes people aren't that comfortable, and they just, go on their day. And so for me, I want to be that person that answers the question and walks them through whatever they need. So for example, I did a lot of loans, and one of the things that I really didn't like doing, of course, and we have to do, is to deny people of loans and then go through their credit. And so we just weren't taking as much time probably as we should have for people to understand that. And so part of what I do also is talk about credit reports and talk about how we can enhance your credit score, and walk them through that, walk with them through that process.
You know what I'm hearing? Well, I interrupted. I thought my add-on to your question was going to be good, but it wasn't. It was bad. Sorry. I totally bombed your question. So first, let's go back to that, and then can I whisper in your ear? Okay, that's part B. But you go back to what you originally were asking her about tools. Such a good question.
So what tools do tellers generally have? So for anybody who's watching and they're like, okay, if I'm going into my bank and you just assume that it's the financial institution, so they would kind of guide you in the way that you need to go. Like, what tools are the things that people could ask about, or how does a person get started if it's just the bank? Like, if they don't have a Kalola as a financial wellness coach, how does a person?
And sorry, it's risky, but if they, like Kalola, you were just saying, with the limited amount of time that both you have, and people have, that's a great question. Like, set them up. Like, so these are the questions that you can ask me in the limited time that we all have. Yeah.
So there are tools that they have, and there are tools that are utilized. I know, working in a financial institution, we had training, and we trained on different scenarios, and that helped out a lot. So if you've seen some person's account was probably overdrawn, we have questions that we would ask those individuals to see what it is that we should offer them. So
Okay.
they have the training, they have prompts, and then
Okay.
just the overall knowledge of working in a financial institution for a while. And they also, of course, have their coworkers and supervisor to ask other different questions.
So what if a person, because I've seen this, where there are people who have, let's say, I don't know, $50,000 sitting in a checking account earning 0.01% interest. And you can see that their monthly expenditures are probably maybe $3,000 or so. Are there any prompts on the other end for, the teller to say, hey, have you thought about maybe a high yield checking account or a high yield savings account or something that's going to help enhance a person's financial well-being?
Yes. So and every financial institution is different. So I want to start by saying that.
Okay.
And it depends on the type of training. Most tellers, they get the basic training of, if you see that amount and you know what the rate is for the savings or the checking account, offer a CD, and this is what a CD does, or something like that.
Okay.
Again, it just depends on the financial institution. And then if there's more in-depth questions, then at that point, they're probably going to refer them to a wealth management planner or something like that.
Okay.
Do you find that, and you both of you, this question for both of you, actually, the financial gurus, but I'm the average Joe going into my bank, and there's so much I don't know. But if I'm going in there, you're right, Kalola, I'm in a hurry. And if there's people in the bank, that's a private. So like, do you guys have like, they stand, it's been a minute since I've been actually in the bank, right? That's true for a lot of people, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
So like if I am going, so yeah, we should address the phone call thing too. Cause this will, like phone calls are what I would do. I would be like calling, but if I go in there, it can be a sensitive topic, right? So I might not be willing to ask questions if there's more people around, but how do you approach it? Like you mentioned you have like prompts or whatever. So if I'm showing you my account or whatever, you're getting my account to make a deposit or I'm going to make a withdrawal, whatever, you have like little red flags in there that goes, Angie's overdrawn. Wah, wah, like help her. Right? You do, for real.
Well, so yeah, they can see that you're overdrawn, and so they can ask you different questions. Okay. And then if it's a lot, if it's really sensitive, again, every financial institution is different, and more than likely they'll probably have you go into an office so that not everyone is hearing what's going on. If you want,
you're offering, and then they would say,
right,
no, thank
absolutely,
you, or maybe another time,
yep,
or whatever.
Absolutely.
What were we going to say?
I forgot just that quickly.
I just think it's interesting because I keep comparing it in my mind a couple of times. I'll switch over to, I do a lot of work with nursing, and, those nurses don't have a lot of time. They have a million patients. They go in, they want to give the best care. Excuse me, same feelings that I hear you saying, that you're there to serve and you want to do the best job for every person that comes in, and how to do that in this limited amount of time is really important. Just going back to her question, so to expand on that, would you recommend that if people have challenges or they're worried this time of year and they want to do things differently, I would ask you that, I guess. Number one, what's the question you get asked most? And what's the tool that you feel like is the most helpful that your particular, because you're not at a bank anymore.
That's correct. I'm not. So
through your business, coming back to your business, what is the biggest question that you're asked? And what was the other question I just thought of? That was really good, I thought.
I just remembered mine.
Oh, good. We're really good today. So what's the question you get asked most? And what is the tool that you offer that you feel is the most helpful? Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
So I think the question that I get asked the most is, how do I pay off this debt? I have so much that I want to pay off, or that I need to pay off. What what ways should I look at paying it off because I want to buy a house someday, or I want to buy a car, or I need to pay off this debt. And so one of the things that I do, because it worked for me, so I always bring this up, is to write down all of your debts. And even with this holiday season, I'd say, write down all of your debts, all of your credit card debts, any debts, write all your debts down, and then also include the interest rate too. And so once you've written those down and included the interest rate, then for me, I would say put them in the order that is most emotional for you. So for example, you may have a debt that you had to take out because maybe you went through a divorce, and so you had to take this loan out to help you through it. And so that debt is probably very emotional for you. And now it's like, I just want to get rid of it because it's weighing on me and it just makes me think of the past. That may be the first thing that you want to pay off. Mm-hmm. And so I would say make minimum payments on all of the other loans, and then make extra payments on the most emotional debt. You can do it that way. When I had student loans, which was over $80,000 that I got paid off, thank goodness, and it wasn't from the help of the government, but I paid those off. I consolidated as many as I could, but then some weren't consolidated. So for me, what gave me the motivation was paying off the smallest first and then getting to the largest one, because once I seen that something was paid off and it was zero balance, it gave me motivation to go to the next one. There may be some people that are very, the interest rate is very important to them. And so you want to put them in interest rate order and then pay off the ones that have the highest interest rates. So I say, and I ask, what motivates you? What is your motivation? And then we go from there, because if it doesn't motivate you, you're not going to do something just to do it. It has to have meaning. It has to have that emotional impact for you.
When you talk about this emotional, I think that's where I was going with that other question, the relationship piece of it. And when you talk about that emotional part of it, like you have to be like your Miss Therapist as well. Like, this is so much, all of it relates to other things, and it's deeper. It's like that onion that we talk about, peeling back that onion. Do you want to share a little bit about that?
Right. Yeah, it is, you have to be, and I have to be very trustworthy. And so I like to build relationships, and Rashonda knows that 100% about me is, I want to make sure that we build a relationship so that you trust me, so that we really can dig into what is it that you really want to do. This is just me, and this is just you talking about your finances. It doesn't go anywhere else. I'm here to help you. So if you tell me that you've gone through a divorce and this is what you want to do, then we're going to dig deep into that and find out, okay, what is really driving you through this, and let's go from there. Because I want you to succeed. You want to succeed. And the only way that we can succeed is, number one, if we have a relationship, a trustworthy relationship, and we're honest, being honest with each other.
So not everyone, I guess, would be an ideal kind of a client, or like, who is your ideal client when you're thinking of someone who you would take on to help?
Mm-hmm. So my ideal clients are the people that are ready, that aren't quite ready to invest, go deep into the investment. They need work before they go into the investment phase. So I need to...
Meaning work as they need to get some debt paid off so they have money to invest.
Yes, get debt paid off, need a savings account, building an emergency fund. And we can definitely talk about what investments look like. For example, if you are working, at job A and they have a 401k plan. We can talk about that. And I can tell you, the advantages of the 401k and making sure that you're in it and what it does and what a Roth IRA, I know, and traditional IRA and what those mean and the benefits of those. But it's more of small to mid-sized businesses or individuals that are ready to align their finances with their goals.
So when you're interviewing or talking with someone, do you do a lot of mindset questions then? Because it sounds like it sounds like that's really necessary, because you don't want to waste their time or money, and you also don't want to waste your time if they're not ready. So are there mindset things that you also evaluate?
Yes.
Okay.
So I do ask questions. So I'll ask them, what's their why? You're ready. You tell me that, I need to save more, or I need to get my credit. I need to, raise my credit score. So I would ask them, tell me why. What's your why? And they may say, oh, I'm ready to buy a house. Okay, so tell me why. Why are you ready to buy a house? What is happening within you that you're ready to buy a house? And then, we just kind of go deeper until I get to that emotional piece of them saying, yes, I really, really do need to. And it is time for me to. Or they may tell me, well, I guess I'm really not ready yet. And then, we can kind of go from there. But just saying, I want to buy a house or I want to buy a car, that's just kind of huge, and to just really dig deep to say, you know what, I have a 3-year-old and I'm tired of being here and I want to have a backyard. And, once they hear themselves saying that, it's real. It becomes real, and it makes you want to do that.
Yeah, that's good. I was going to ask about what can a person expect? So I mentioned before, because I feel like, probably most people are, it's not sensitive, what's the word? It's private, right? Mm-hmm. It's a private thing. Mm-hmm. As a 57-year-old woman who is working towards retirement with her husband and had 7 kids, like we were talking about before, one income, a lot of unpaid work, as we've talked about before. No, so what, like those were kind of barriers for me in the past until I was all in, like, someone looking at my habits, the things that I'm spending my money on. But it was so good. I just wondered if you would be able to share like some of the things that a client could expect that you're going to have to dive into.
Oh, yes. So the very first thing is relationship building and building that trust. That's just the first thing to expect, is just to have a conversation, just to talk. I'm not diving into anything, our first conversation, our second conversation, because I want to get to know you, and I want you to get to know me, because you might think I'm not right for you. So, it has to be that trust factor. But after that, it's okay, we're going to pull statements. We're going to pull your bank statements. And what I have them do, and I've done this, is I pull my statements and I categorize. So I would have you categorize your statements. I love highlighters. So I use highlighters on, I would say, just highlight like your groceries, your entertainment, so that you can see yourself, this is you doing it, not me. So you can see yourself where you spend your money at, and then we can come back and then we'll talk about that. You'll let me know that, you know what, I need to spend $800 a month in groceries. Well, now, I mean, we all do with prices, but a house of 4, maybe I do need to spend that on food, and okay, that's fine. Let's go to entertain, so you would expect for me just to ask different questions. I never judge, because you know what, I've spent money on things I probably should not have, but you know what? I enjoyed it. I liked it, and I might do it again. I mean, so you know, if you, and that's important. That is one thing that I definitely would ask, is this something that you enjoy? Do you want to give that up? And if you don't want to give it up, that's fine. We don't have to, you don't have to give up your manicures and your pedicures. You don't have to give that up. But let's look through this to see if there's something in here that, you know what, I do it, but I can give it up. Yeah. You know, so I, you know, expect a judge-free zone. And expect that I will definitely be sensitive to the things that are very important to you. I would never ask anyone to give up something that's important to them.
Good, that's so good.
Yeah, that is really good, because a lot of times I think people shy away from even talking about their finances because, you know, it's the bad B word, budgeting. Yep. And when people can just feel or hear from you that it's not a game of perfection, and you don't have to give up all the things.
Right. And Rashonda, I know I've told you this story before, but you know, my daughter, when she comes home from college, she works, and I always go to the place when she's there. I always go to the place where she works to visit her. And when I do that, I always buy something. You know, I don't even need it. I always, you know, so one day you know, so I pulled my statement, and I highlighted every time I went to where she was. Yes. And versus when she's away at college and she's not there. Yeah. Well, I rarely went. And I told my daughter, I'm like, I'm only spending this money because you're here. I'm not coming to visit you anymore. And, you know, she's like, well, I never told you to come anyway. So it's like, oh, okay. So, you know, I recognize that I just went in there to see my daughter, but, you know, there's all these enticing things, and I just bought it just to be buying stuff.
Is that awareness, right? Like, and I'm thinking, this is what I was mentioning before. You are a coach, you are actually, like, it's just finances, but you're a full, like, this is what we talk about on our podcast. Like, everything is relationships. It's a relationship you have with your finances is related to everything else. Like, what keeps you up at night, you know, your relationship, and what, isn't that like the number one, correct me if I'm wrong, the number one argument or cause of divorce is financial stuff. So all that stuff is so important. And I think when I'm thinking about what a big job you have and how important it is and what a value it is to other people, I know you, and I know you even more through Rashonda, and you get the importance of being able to relate to that person. You've said trust now several times. That's a big deal for us here too, and in our different coaching businesses. You have to be able to recognize what's important for the trust of the other person. So what matters to me, for me to trust you, is going to be different than what you need from me, right? So like for me, a budget is great. I need outline. I need a plan. My husband says he's a planner, but I think we just plan differently, different ways. So you know, the different definitions of plan, right, you know, right. Like, and that's fine. But I'm sure you're so good at figuring out, and that's got to be touchy, right? Can you talk about that?
Yes. Okay. So everybody is different. You know, there is not one way to do anything, you know, and just because I chose to do the highlighter way doesn't mean that, you know, the highlighter way is your way. And that's part of talking, and that's part of asking questions, is to find out, you know, maybe you like Excel spreadsheets, maybe you don't, maybe you like an app. Okay. So then we talk about that. I talk about what helps you, because it's all about you. So what's going to make you follow through? So whatever makes me follow through probably won't make you follow through. So I'm not going to push it on you. And that's why I continually ask questions, just to make sure that we're on the same page, or that I'm on the same page as you are. And if it's an app, then we'll look at an app and we'll work through that app together.
Are there different techniques that are used when you're dealing with an individual as compared to a couple?
So as far as couples, yes, because with one person, it is kind of easier because it's just that one person. But so, for example, me and my husband, like totally different. Like, I'm the person, the highlighter person, and I want to input things. He's the save every single receipt. Like,
oh my gosh,
oh, yeah.
I have my receipts.
Yes.
What are you talking about? What
Yes.
age do you live in?
Right.
Everywhere. They're literally everywhere.
Yes.
Don't even think about going down to my warehouse. Our warehouse is like, oh, it's bad. But okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Good to know we're not alone.
No, he is a receipts. I mean, receipts back, and I could go and probably grab a receipt back to 2010. So, he's a receipt person. And so what we do, or, whenever we are, using the card or whatever, I can go online and look, but he always has his receipts. And if we go into the grocery store and I just get one thing, sometimes I don't get a receipt. Oh
no.
No.
Hilarious.
So it's more questions with couples. It's more making sure they're on the same page. And sometimes when you're talking to couples and they're not on the same page, and I can feel like this is like, I'm not the person that they need right now, I will let them know, because sometimes it's deeper. Like you said, finances is part of, divorce, and I'm definitely not a divorce counselor by any means. And so I can tell when it's, when it's not for me, and I would definitely let them know that.
That's hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. It's definitely hard.
Yeah. We had it was probably 5 years ago, maybe a little bit more. I told you about this when we sat down. We've been self-employed for a long time, which has been sort of an excuse, or maybe obviously I think there's fear behind that, like really looking at everything. Todd is great. And I will say that the receipt thing has saved us many times. So no judgment there. It just drives me insane.
Yeah.
But, I just wish that we had figured it out earlier. For the hard work that he has done, we have done together, to sit down however many years ago now, maybe it was more like 10 years ago, and to really have looked at it for the first time. We had jumped brackets and tax brackets. Great thing, except for we weren't keeping an eye on our money. And so we had over $100,000 of discretionary income that we had no idea.
Oh, wow.
I know. And I'm just being honest, because it was a real wake up call. And so do you find that is like, what would be the biggest issue if you had to pick one? Like, what's the biggest problem that people have, whether they know it or not, like from the outside looking in, you know what I'm saying? Like, what would be the biggest problem?
The biggest problem is that what I found is that people, and I'm going to say myself too, because I've been guilty of it, is we don't know where our money goes.
Yes.
That's the biggest problem, until you sit down, until you see that, oh my gosh, I didn't know I had, I'm spending $250 a month on subscriptions, or I didn't know that $200 a month was coming out, and I don't even know where it goes because I don't pay attention to my account. I don't pay attention to what comes in or goes out. And so that's what I see is the biggest thing, is that people don't know where their money is going. And once you're aware, then you become more careful, and then you're learning from that. And that's, one of the things that definitely,
it's kind of one of those things you can't unlearn. Like, if once you see it, because I'll never forget that. So whether I'm better about it or not is a different thing.
Absolutely.
But that will not go. And so those are sort of the things that might keep me up or keep someone else up, is now that I know, what am I going to do about it?
Right.
I love that the tip that you had for the highlighters. Can you give, if you were to give 2 tips for 2025 for people to get out of debt? Because is that mostly then what I'm hearing is a big part of your business is to help people move from being in the red to being in the black.
Right.
From out of debt.
To get them to where they are comfortable with knowing what they need to do with their finances, or even if they decide to splurge, they know how to get back on track by themselves, because we all splurge, we all get off track, especially during the holidays. But it's, how do I get back on track? And it's being aware. So I would say, again, getting back on track, or a tip is, again, just make sure, look at your statements, look at your previous month statements, and go through that. A lot of financial institutions, if they have online banking, it's there for you. And just log on to online banking and categorize it. And so I would say, once you've become aware, then you can go through and decide how much you want to spend on the different items, the different categories. Another tip that I would say, and especially after the holidays, we probably get a lot of gifts that we could do without.
A nice way of saying it.
Right. And I know this is about to be probably controversial, but you can re-gift. There's nothing wrong with re-gifting. Like, I have probably 20 candles, and I don't need 20 candles.
No.
And, they've never been lit. And so, and yes, if you get a candle from me, but, there's nothing wrong with that.
Okay, I'm glad you said that, and specifically candles, because when everybody came over on Christmas, I knew that there'd probably be people that I did not have gifts for. So I had gone and gotten all the candles that I have not burned, because I don't burn candles. And so I was like, oh.
Have I ever gotten you a candle?
No.
No. Okay.
And I probably just stopped maybe 2 years or so ago. So everybody got to pick a candle that they wanted.
Oh,
and that was part of my gifting for.
You know what I'm feeling, though? I'm feeling like, so we're all just cycling these through then, now that we know that 3 of us are doing that. Me too, with candles. So y'all are just giving them back and forth to each other. It's all good. It's the thought that counts.
They're going out of the circle to people who are actually going to burn them.
Right. Okay. Absolutely. So, I mean, there's nothing wrong with re-gifting at all. So I would, say, especially now that, it's January, so you can look to see, how much did I actually spend for the holidays? Grab those receipts if you're a receipt person, or, go online and to home banking and just tally up what you've spent for the holidays. And that will give you a really good idea of what you need to do for the holidays coming up, because it's going to come really soon. And so now you can start saving, or determining, per month, how much do I need to save per month if I want to spend $700 for the holiday? Because that's how much I spent. If that's how much you spent before, you can start now budgeting for that.
I think that's so good, because, when I was running the other company that I was running, and people would come and say, hey, my daughter's birthday, or, it's coming up, or Christmas is coming up, and can I get an advance on my paycheck? And I didn't mean to be the mean person, but I'm like, that was not a surprise. Mm-hmm. It comes every single year.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think it's really important, to really teach people, like, plan for, we know these things are coming up. Like, December 25th is not a surprise.
Right. No.
It comes every year.
Every single year.
Yeah.
It does. That's why your cash flow statement is so important. It's so important to put down everything that you spend money on. A story I have is, when I bought my vehicle, I bought an SUV, and we all know that license plates, or the renewal, is very expensive. And so every year it was, oh my God, it is so much, but I know this. So what I started to do every single month, so now, like in January, I will put monthly what I need to put away for my license. So then when it comes up, now I have this. So, number one, if you keep your savings, so things like that, in an account, make sure that you don't have a debit card attached to that account, your savings, so that you don't use it. You can also, number two is what I found is the envelope method. So you get envelopes, and so for example, like my license plate, my renewal, I just use the envelope for that, and I could just take the cash there, because if you use a debit card, I mean, or a credit card, they're gonna take an extra percentage. So why not just go there with cash? So things like that, just use the envelope method for your grocery shopping. Use the envelope method for that. So then that, okay, once that cash is gone, then it's gone. For groceries, I would say, okay, borrow from somewhere else because you don't want to starve, but you will definitely, you'll become more aware of not just picking up items in the grocery store that wasn't on your list.
One thing I used to do, especially when I first got started, because I think my thing wasn't so much like that I was a splurger, but it was that I was too generous. Mm-hmm. And so, for my savings, I would have part of my check go to a bank like 45 minutes away in a small town that I did not have a debit card to. So that, I mean, if somebody says, they needed something, I know I need to have my savings. Like, I'm not trying to be stingy. I got to make sure I can take care of me as well. And so it seemed to be the only way that I could do it, was to actually have this account in a small town, 45 minutes away, that had no debit card. I did not have like online access. I would need to actually go there to transact business. And so that was an easy no, because I would have trouble with that. Yep. I know it's probably pretty extreme, but do what you got to do.
I love that you use the word awareness, because that's the word that keeps popping into my head. So, and the plan, you have to be aware of what's going on before you can have a plan. If you have a plan, then you actually are planning to fail. Right. So absolutely. I feel like that is what you do for people. You're like, well, let's get a plan.
Right. Absolutely. And it's your plan. It's not my plan. It's your plan. And that is what's going to make you succeed, because it's all about you. It's what you wanted to do. It's your goals. It's aligning with what you want to do in life. If you want to retire, at 45, 50, or, whatever, you've made your plan to do that, and that it's a realistic plan.
Yeah. So good. I just keep thinking about what a big job that you have. I mean, how needed it is, what value it is for people. I'm so glad we get to talk about you and what you do. I mean, really from personal experience, to not know doesn't feel good. And if it's not eating at people now, it eventually will. And it's such a great service that you do with men and women, or partners. What I keep going back to that, because I just know that what a challenge that is. And do you have any like advice, or just to create awareness around what they can expect for relationships? Like, if you're coming with your partner, to me, these are the things that I've experienced, and these are the things I'd like to have you prepare for, because that onion's going to be peeled back. How do you offer that to couples? Like, here's what you in your I call them chemistry calls. In your chemistry call, do you say, so this is sensitive? Like, where I'm going with that? Yep. Can you share that?
So one of the things that I definitely ask is, do you talk about your finances together now? Because that's a huge question, because if the answer is no, then I know that it's going to be a big job, because there may be surprises that come out, and so
no idea what you're talking.
Right. Those Amazon Prime boxes weren't for me. I mean, so it's
I have not done that. No, I'm not going to say never, but
Well, when I have them delivered, like my husband, he'll open them and then he'll say, "Oh, your so and so came." It's like I can never get to.
dang it.
I know I can never get there fast enough. It's like wow. So yes, so that's the number one question that I ask is, do you what I call money dates? Do you have money dates now?
Oh, that's
do you?
great.
Yes. Do you talk about your finances now? And I always hope the answer is yes, that they do. I always hope. But if the answer is no, then I will say, then the next question is, tell me more about what is making you not talk about your finances.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah. So what is it, now? And, we'll see what the answer is. And, I'll talk about the comfort level of finances and the reasons of why they don't talk about it now. And then, I'll say there may be some surprises coming out. How will you handle that? And it's just kind of those probing questions to make sure that we are all on the same page. You may hear something that you might not want to hear. You may find out some things that you might not want to, that you might not have known. And are you still committed to moving forward? And so those are kind of some of the questions that, we talk about.
That's good. I feel like getting those questions out, at least people can, like you're saying, not be surprised, but also they will be more apt to not have that fear be there. They can come to you because, okay, all right, so that's going to happen. That's going to happen. All right, so let's keep going. Let's go forward, even before they come to you, so it's good that we're talking about that, I think, right now.
Yes.
It's a big deal. Oh, my gosh, finances. I mean,
they are personal.
Are you shocked? I don't know how much time we have left, but are you shocked that schools, I did not learn anything about finances or how to plan, I feel like my husband says that he did stuff in school, like high school, with a checkbook, back in the days of a checkbook. We didn't do that. Not that I remember. I won't throw my high school under the bus, but I feel like I did not learn that. What is the situation now at schools? It seems to me that it hasn't changed that much. Even my kids my last one just turned 19. Are they learning those financial skills? Are they?
I think, so now I think there's a law that finances have to be talked about one semester. I think it's one semester. The challenge,
Total? 1 semester total?
I think it's one semester total. I think it's one semester total. If it's more, I apologize, but I'm pretty sure it's one semester total. What I see is that it is engulfed into another subject also. So I did a financial session for high school students a couple of months ago. And I think one of the students told me that they learn about it during social studies. And so somehow it is engulfed into, a different class. So as we talked about it, I could tell that finances, they talk about it, but it's not as strong as what it should be. And so I think that we are doing our kids a disservice not talking about finances, because when they go off to college, or even if they just go off into the world, they don't know that they should really be looking at the benefit packages and a 401k plan, and what is it that this company is offering, and what if I have two offers? How do I know that which one is the best offer? Because just because company A has told me that my salary would be higher doesn't mean that I should go with company A. Maybe I should go with company B with a smaller salary. However, all my health insurance is paid. I think that it's more of, I think that kids, or as you grow up, or as they grow up, may look at the salary and say, oh yeah, this is what I want. Whereas, it's not. It took me a while because back in my day, we weren't taught. I mean, I knew how to do a checkbook. I learned most of my money stuff from my dad. Because my dad, I would always see him. He could get whatever he wanted. Like he could go into the bank and, he could get his new car or whatever. And I wanted to be just like that. I was like, oh, I want to be like that. And I was mad at my dad for a while when you turn 16 or 17, 18, you see all these kids, their parents get them cars, and so that was not my dad. And my dad specifically said that he was not going to co-sign because no one's going to mess up his credit, which I totally get it.
Yes,
I totally
absolutely.
see why he did that,
Yes.
And that rubbed off on me, which, with my kids, they know that finances is important. They know that credit is important. My 21-year-old, she knows that it's important, and that, if you have a job and your credit is fine, you can get what you want, so all of that came from my dad, watching him talking to me about when I got my first check. I worked at Hy-Vee and I got my first check, and what did I do? This was before direct deposit. I cashed it and went straight to the mall.
Oh, yeah.
My dad stopped me. He's like, do you have an account? And I'm like, no. So until I got an account, he took my checks. And so he took me to, it was John Deere Credit Union then. He took me there and he opened up an account. And then I got direct deposit and we talked about it. And that's where I got, that's where my memories from money is my dad.
Yeah, I wish we would have been better with our first batch of kids, as there's a couple of years in between the first 4 and the second 3. We've been better with the second 3, but even I homeschooled, and because I didn't have, and then they went to high school, but I didn't have those skills, so they could have been introduced even earlier. And so it's not to say that the high schools have to do it all, but gosh, what a disservice. That's why I brought it up, just because it's still shocking to me. And I think it also, it makes me think about nutrition. We're also not taught that, very, very little bit about that. The things, it's pretty crazy, the things that are preventative, so we do not find ourselves, in dark places and, places that are really hard to come back from. We skip that part. We skip the prevention part, but thankfully you are here to teach us that. Anything you want to say before we close about, I have so many more questions. Do you have another question you want to end with?
Really I was just going to ask, how people find you.
Yes, how people are going to find you. And any last words of advice going into 2025 to really get clear on it. These are the 2 things to really get you started. Well, there's always more to do, but if you can come up with those 2 things, that'd be amazing. And then where they find you.
Yep. So I think the 2 things, again, number 1, please pull your December statements to see how much you've spent for the holidays. And it could go back into November too, because we do shop in November. But I would say do that so that you know how much you've at least spent for the holidays, so that that would be your benchmark there. And then you can determine what it is that you want to spend and start saving now. I would also, as you're doing that, look at all of your expenses. Is there anything that you possibly can cut? And then if it is, then go ahead and do that. And I would say if there's things on there that you absolutely enjoy doing, don't cut the things that you enjoy doing. Do not do that, because then you'll be in it'll be a state of shock, and you'll just go back to, you'll hate it. And so cut the things that really doesn't matter. It was just impulse. And if it's just impulse, go ahead and cut those. But really become aware of where your expenses are going. I think awareness is very important.
I agree.
Yeah. And then how do people find you? How do they do business with you?
Yep. Yes. So there's a couple of ways. You can email me at info@Kalola Roby, ROB as in boy, Y, .com. Sorry, I lost my translation, or I lost it, but info at KalolaRoby.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn, just my name, Kalola Roby. And then also I'm on Instagram, Kalola Roby on Instagram also.
That is so easy, right? Kalola
Yeah,
Roby.
Yes,
And that is Kalola for
Yes,
anyone who would want to know.
Yes,
Yeah.
Kalola. Thank you.
Question for you. You mentioned that you go into schools.
Mm-hmm.
So if schools want to get a hold of you, that's something that you do also. And so you do speaking and things for organizations.
Yes. So one of the things that I really that I found is that there are a lot of people that need this help and that want it. They want to really sit down with someone and talk about their finances on a one-on-one basis. And so sometimes the cost is what prevents them from doing that. And what I recommend, and I recommend this to organizations, is to look at their wellness plan. Look at their wellness plan to see if is financial wellness included in your wellness plan at work, because finances basically is one of the things that stresses employees out the most. If you think about it, when you were in corporate, what is the first thing you do when you come into work and you sit at your desk? You will either pull up online banking, you will do some form of banking to make sure your accounts are reconciled. And that's what most people do. I know I did when before I even started work, I would pull up online banking, see what cleared, if there were anything on there that I needed to take care of. Did something come out? Was there fraud on my account? It needs to be financial wellness needs to be part of that wellness. And so what I like to do is go into organizations and just have, even if it's a lunch and learn, but just to talk about finances, talk about savings, talk about emergency funds, to talk about debt, or even, credit ratings and things like that, and how important that is, and then work with them on a one-on-one basis. I am doing a webinar for a few people in the school system just to kind of talk about debt after the holidays.
So good.
So, yeah.
And that link will be on your website? Or is that just private?
Yeah, that one is just for the schools. Okay. But yeah, if organizations want to get in touch with me to talk about it, again, info at KalolaRoby.com, and you can find me on LinkedIn, Kalola Roby.
Yay, awesome. I have one last question before we sign off. So having this understanding and awareness around finances, nobody's perfect, but having this awareness, would you say then that this has improved, or at least helped anyway, the wellness of your relationship with your husband?
Yes, it has. It actually has, now that I have accepted receipts. So I've accepted that I'm not going to fight that battle.
Yes,
I'm not going to fight the battle.
That's good.
But it has more awareness.
Yeah.
And like I said, just money dates.
Yes.
Just, kind of talking about one of the things that we're starting is our vacation fund.
Nice.
Yep. So we're starting a vacation fund. So
that's nice. That feels great. Okay.
Yes.
I wanted to kind of bring it back and remind everybody that it's always about relationships, and then you feel better about you being aware and all the things. And
absolutely.
It's awesome. Thank you. Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you, Rashonda, for introducing Kalola to me and being here. So, okay, this is Angie Gray and Kalola Roby
and Rashonda Young,
and we are Sister Friends.
Thanks for tuning into Sister Friends. We hope these conversations help you see things from a new angle, feel a little more connected, and maybe even laugh along the way.
Remember, whether it's family, work, or those elephants in the room we all deal with, everything really is about relationships.
If you enjoyed this episode, let us know. Share your thoughts, share this podcast with a friend, and let's keep building those connections.
Until next time, stay connected, stay curious, and let's keep growing together.